Rabbi Levitt, the 15th of August, Gemora.
Okay, we're ready to go. Get another chance to try to figure out this Gemora. Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, this was not clear to me at all. I remember this now. Remember how unclear it was. Okay, so we started off with the Amar Rabbi Bar Chama. Rabbi Bar Chama is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th line from the top. First word in the line is Ella. Amar Rabbi Bar Chama, he said, we read it yesterday, Zos Omeres. This says that Magbia Metzia Lechavero, Kona Chavero. That if, I'm just saying, I gotta close the door here. Okay. This says, Rashi will tell us what the this refers to, but we're going to make an inference from what this says. In other words, the inference is that the zos, the this that we're talking about, it can be inferred, and therefore it's as though it says that the following halacha, that if Jew number 1 lifts up an article that from Hefker, from the ground, lechavero, with the intention to have his friend acquire that item, kona chavero, it works. His friend will acquire it based upon the picking up of Jew number 1. Jew number 1 picks it up with the intention to have Jew number 2 acquire it. Jew number 2 acquires it. And now, where Rabbi Bar Chama is telling us that we can infer that this is the true halacha from what it says in the Mishnah. And that was the Rashi. The Rashi said, Zos Omeres, Masnisin Diktani, the Mishnah where it was taught, Shnaim Sheheg Bi'uhu Metzia, 2 people that picked up a Metzia. They picked up a lost item that was Hefker from the ground. Kanuhu, they both acquire it. They both acquire a share of the item. V'yachloku, and accordingly, the Bezdin will divide the item between them. Okay. Fine. What's that? Oh, okay. Roy's coming.
So where are we?
We're on A1, right-hand column. We started with the second paragraph, Rami Bar Chama. We're in the middle of that section.
Okay, so let's read this. Let's read this Rashi again. Rashi Rashi spent 3 lines over here explaining us what's going on over here. It pays to read Rashi over again. That's the key to understanding what's going on in the Gemora. We're looking at Rashi Dibra Maskel Zos Omeres. This is starts on the first wide line of Rashi, first line of the page.
Zot Omeres. Mitnei the Katane. It's our Mishnah that taught Shnayim shehigbio, two of them that lift up a Metzia of something they found. They acquire it, the achluko, and then they divide it. Uke when they will lift them up, magbi, they lifted the dot with the intention, sheyakana, that they be required, that they're going to acquire it. Chavero, Chatzia, his friend has half of it. Shmamina, learn from this. Hagmabia, Metzia, the one who lifts up a found object. The Kameya, and this is later, Kameya, that at first Harichet asks a diuke, an inference, the Rami, that he's a Rami, he's a deceiver. Bar, no, that's the name, the Rami Bar Chama.
Oh, Rami Bar Chama, yeah.
The Rami Bar Chama, Mehechat here, Me'ezo, in this, but in which portion, Mishenatna, that it was taught who Lamad came that learned this.
Right. So, two parts of this Rashi are that first part is Rashi told us where the place is that Rami Bar Chama made this inference. He said it's from the Mishnah where we learn that when two people pick up a Metzia, that both of them acquire, and they both and therefore the Beis Din divides it between them. And how does it work like that? So Rashi explains the reason that it works like that because let's talk how should it have looked? We could have thought to say that really the one that picks it up first, he should really acquire the whole thing, and the other one should really get nothing. And that's what we've been saying. It's just because that we don't really know who picked it up first. We don't know, and so we don't really know. We don't really know. But what Rashi's saying over here is that he seems to be saying something else. That I don't know if he's talking about our Mishnah on Dav Beis where they both pick up the talis. But maybe I'm thinking now. Maybe that's what Rashi means when he says the Masnisa and Diktani in the Mishnah that we learned. When they both pick up this talis, the talis is a Metzia. Here Rashi is saying that Kishemagbia, when Jew number one picks up the talis, he's magbia ledas sheyikne bo chaveru chatzia. He's picking it up. Jew number one is picking it up with the thought in mind and the intention in mind that Jew number two should likewise acquire chatzia, his portion of this talis as well. And in other words, it sounds like each one of them is giving room to the other one to make his acquisition on that part of the talis that each one of them is picking up. Jew number one's picking up this side of the talus. Jew number 2 is picking up that side of the talus. And when Jew number 1 picks up side A, he's saying, "Oh, I'm allowing when I'm picking up side A, I'm intending to pick it up so that Jew number 2 will be able to acquire a side B of the talus." And it sounds like Jew number 2 is doing the same thing. And like that, Rashi says, Shma Mina, the halacha of Rami Bar Chama. If this is the way it works, when these two people pick up this talus, so then we could learn out from that Jew number 1 has the ability to allow Jew number 2, who's not even there, making an acquisition, to make an acquisition on the talus. All it has to be is that he has intention that's what he wants with his action of picking up the talus. And so therefore, Rami Bar Chama says Zosomeris. This, meaning this, what it says in the Mishnah, teaches us, you can infer from there, that even if there was only one Jew and picked up the talus, if he picked up that talus in mind that Jew number 2 should acquire it, Jew number 2 will acquire it, even though he didn't do anything. Then the next part of Rashi is that he says that the Gemora is going to ask this question later on. Where did Rami Bar Chama get this from? Where did he get this halacha from? Okay. Now let's take a look at the next section of the Gemora, the section of the Gemora that says Dei Sokadaitach. That's 2 lines down from Amar Rami Bar Chama. The first word in the line is kana. Alan's still, he's a silent participant over here. Alan, you can come in whenever you want.
Alan sent me an email telling me he's going to the doctor this morning, so he might not be there.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, Roy, would you like to read? Dei Sokadaitach.
But but Rami Bar Chama said, after that, isn't it?
Okay, just so start reading from Amar Rami Bar Chama.
Okay. Rami Bar Chama said, Zos Amara. This teaches us that Magbia Metzia the Bava. If one lifts a found object, continue to acquire it entirely for his fellow. It's here entirely for his fellow. Kana Havera. Then his fellow acquires it. Here, dear Salaka, Lo Kana Havera. For if it should enter your mind that his fellow does not acquire it, just say, Zo Kamei Shamonei face Al Kavei Karaka. Then in the Mishnah's case, let this end of the object be considered as if it was lying on the ground. וזה כמה שמונחה על גבי הקרקע, and this other end of the object is considered as if it was lying on the ground. Below, יוקנה לו זה ולא זה, and thus neither this litigant nor that litigant should acquire the object. Lo shemay miga. Rather infer from this ruling that in the Mishnah that Hamagabia Metzia if one picks up a found object intending to acquire it entirely for his fellow, Kana Havera, then his fellow acquires the object. Then Rashi distinguishes between Rami Bahama's case and that of our Mishnah, thereby refuting the deduction. Omar Rava said,
No, that's good. Okay. We gotta figure out what this means here. Okay, so the Gemora is saying that if you don't say what if you don't say this, if you don't say what Rami Bar Chama says, so then Rami Bar Chama is basically saying that you have no way to explain how it is that each one of these two are going to acquire any part of the talus. And the Gemara says, because it doesn't really explain how it is that we see that, but it just says, if you're not going to say it like Rabbi Bar Chama, then it's going to be regarded as though each part of the talus that each person picks up is regarded as though it's lying on the ground, and therefore neither one of them are going to be kona anything. So the Gemara talks in a very conclusionary way, forceful way, without explaining why it is that is. So, and Rashi doesn't help us over here. Rashi doesn't help us either. We could read the Rashi. Okay, so let's read the Rashi. We'll stall our lack of understanding of the Gemara by reading the Rashi. Okay, so what does Rashi have to tell us about the lo yikne zeh lo zeh? Fine.
V'chol harotzeh yach tifuna miyadam.
Yeah.
That each one wants to grab from his hand.
The kol harotze. These ones, Jew number 1 and Jew number 2, are sitting there holding the talus. But Rami Bar Chama just told us, if you don't agree with me, so both of them that are holding the talus, they didn't acquire anything. This one didn't acquire anything. Jew number 1 and Jew number 2 didn't acquire anything. And therefore Rashi says, the kol harotza, and anyone harotza who wants, yichadfenu miyadam, he can grab it away from their hand. A third party can come and grab it from them because they don't have any ownership interest over this item. If you don't learn like me, says Rami Bar Chama.
So in other words, he's saying it's like it's laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Third person can come and grab it.
Yeah.
And clearly that's true.
Yeah.
And that's why Rami Bar Chama is correct.
Yeah. Except that we don't understand why it is that it's what we got to figure out is this. Why is it that if you don't say like Rabbi Bar Chama, then it's regarded as though this talus is lying on the ground? Why is that? It doesn't look to me like it's lying on the ground. It looks like to me that both of them are holding it. It's not on the ground anymore. Why is it that it's regarded as though it's lying on the ground if you don't say what Rabbi Bar Chama says? And usually we can hope that Rashi will help us out over here on a matter like this. But over here, what has Rashi told us? Rashi has told us seemingly an obvious thing. Well, obviously, if neither one of them have acquired it, and it's though it's lying on the ground, then obviously a third person could come along and grab it from them. What's Rashi telling me? I don't understand what he's telling me that I wouldn't already know. I don't know why. What I'd like him to say, he didn't tell me. And when I don't need to know, he told me. So
I
am very frustrated.
I have a long footnote. Do you want me to read it?
Oh, a long footnote. Oh, they're bothered too. Okay, let's see what they have to say.
Okay, it's next to the word karka, on the ground.
Okay.
A Kenyan hagba is valid only if the entire object was lifted off the ground on behalf of the prospective owner. If only was lifted for him, the Kenyan is void and nothing at all is acquired. Now,
yeah.
Now, if two people lifted an object, e.g., together, and then one let go of his end, that end would obviously fall to the ground. Each person is thus lifting only part of the cloak. Admittedly, certain objects would remain suspended in the air even if one person let go of his end. Rashba explains why even in such a case, each person in effect lifts only part of the object. Ravad cited, etc. Accordingly,
right.
If each of the two intended to acquire the object through Kinyan Hagba, the Kinyan could be void because only part of the object was lifted by each person.
Right.
This,
so therefore,
this, however, would change if we assume that a person has the legal capacity to acquire an object for his fellow. If that were true, then it would be possible for the entire object to be lifted on both persons' behalf. Each could then lift it not only for himself, but for the other as well. Given this, if two people lifted a found object simultaneously, each presumably realizes that his Kinyan is void unless he lifts it for his fellow as well as for himself.
Excellent. Okay.
Both do so, thereby acquiring the object jointly.
Right.
To prove that a person indeed has the legal capacity to acquire a found object for his fellow, Rabbi Bar Chama cites our Mishnah, ruling that if two people lift a found object simultaneously, they acquire it jointly. This proves, Rabbi Bar Chama asserts, that if someone lifts a found object entirely on behalf of his fellow, the fellow acquires it as well. See Rashi.
See Rashi. Oh, you know what? Actually, that was what Rashi told us. Rashi told us in the Zosomeris. See, when Rashi said, that's why Rashi didn't do any more explaining, because he feels he already explained it in the previous Divra Maskil. Okay. In Rashi, Zosomeris, Rashi in about 7 words explained everything that long footnote took to explain. when Rashi said, and when Jew number one picks it up, he picks it up with the thought in mind that he's giving room, he's allowing for his friend also to acquire. In other words, how do we look at this? Each one, when he lived, so step one is you got, when somebody does a kinyan hagbo, he's got to lift the entire item up. If he wants to make an acquisition, any acquisition whatsoever, he's got to lift up the whole thing. If he doesn't lift up the whole thing, he can't make any acquisition, even on the part that he did lift up. So each one of these two Jews, he needs the other Jew to help him, to help him to be the agent for him to pick up the side that he's not picking up. Each Jew's got to pick up part, the left side of the talus and the right side of the talus. Otherwise, he can't acquire anything, because that's the rule of Hagba, Kinyan Hagba. So therefore, that's where Rabbi Bar Chama comes in. Rabbi Bar Chama says, yes, you have to say that Jew number one, when he picks up the left side of the talus, he's saying, what is he saying? I'm picking this left side up of the talus for myself and also for my friend over here, Jew number two. And so therefore, it's regarded as Jew number two has picked up the left side of the talus. Now when we go, what?
Wait a second. How can he say I'm picking it up for me and him? Only one person can own it.
Oh, so, okay. So what happens now is, if they're going to do that, and the second Jew is also going to do exactly the same thing. So now what happened is that in halakha we regard it as both of them picked up the entire talus, and they both become owners in the whole talus.
I think you have to say that he picks up the left side with the intention that it's for himself. At the same time, he intends the right side to be for his friend.
But he did not. The problem with saying that, Lou, is that he can't say he. Well, one second.
Yeah.
But you have to have it regarded as though each Jew picked up the whole talus. How do you have that? It's not enough that Jew number one says, "Oh, I'm allowing Jew number two to pick up his portion of the talus." Shkoyach. First of all, you didn't pick it up yourself. So what can you say about the other side of the talus at all? And number two, unless you pick up your side for him as well, how is he gonna have any? How is it going to be regarded as that he picked up the whole talus? The first step is that when it comes to kinyan hagba, a person who needs to make a kinyan hagba, he needs to pick up the entire article. It has to be regarded as though he picked up the entire article. Now we know each one of them, neither one of them picked up the entire article. Each one of them picked up only a portion of it. And that's what Rami Bar Chama says. If you don't say like me, so then it's going to be regarded as each side of the talus has not been picked up. Why? Because each side of the talus was not unless they're working together, each each Jew only picked up half of the talus. If each Jew only picked up half of the talus, that means that neither Jew picked up the whole talus. If neither Jew picked up the whole talus, then there's no Jew that acquired any acquisition in the talus whatsoever, and then a third person can come and take it from them. So our second step, after having said that, our second step has to be that we have to figure out a way to say that each Jew is regarded as having picked up the whole talus.
Based on another footnote, can we say that the Jew picks up the left side for himself, and he makes the other Jew, he sees the other Jew picking it up, and he says, I'm making him a shliach to acquire the other half for me. It says the prospective owner may either perform the kinyan himself or appoint an agent, shliach, to perform the kinyan for him.
Mm-hmm. So then you're saying that Jew number one is appointing Jew number two as his shliach to pick up the other side that Jew number one is not picking up, and Jew number two is picking up, and he's saying, I'm appointing Jew number two to be my shliach to pick up side two, so that it'll be regarded as though I've also picked up side number two.
Right. And then if the other Jew does the same thing, then each of them gets credit for Hagba.
Yeah. Shemagbia l'das sheyikne bo havero chatzia. Okay.
Oh, it says something here which I don't understand. It says
who said that?
That was it's just the art scroll. The art scroll doesn't quote anybody. But it says in the same footnote, it says the acquisition of a present, the principle of Zechia, even someone who has not been appointed as an agent to perform the kinyan for him. Rami bar Kama's ruling applies this ruling to the acquisition of a found object. I don't really understand exactly what that means.
Well, yeah, because it's sort of like missing a little bit. If Jew number one says, I'm appointing Jew number two to pick up the talus for me, maybe Jew number two did he tell that to Jew number two? No.
Right.
So where's the agency? How is the agency created? Rami bar Kama is saying that we have to say that they sent out their sound waves or whatever, or their brain waves, I don't know, and each one of them thought of the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Without communicating it, without speaking it out,
okay.
Which is a tremendous. It's not so. It's quite a stretch.
It says because it's a schus. If the acquisition is a schus, an unqualified benefit for the prospective owner.
Right.
In other words, you're allowed to benefit somebody without his knowledge or permission.
Right.
So when he says, Oh, so if he says, he's got to say, I'm appointing. He's got to. I'm lost.
In other words, I think you made I think what you're saying is that because of this principle of zechia, and I think it's related to the principle of zachan nadam shelo b'fanav. We can confer upon a person a schus even though he doesn't know about it. He hasn't commanded it. Because why can we do that? Because it's taken for granted that that's what the person wants. And if we know that that's what the person would want, so then it's as though he's told us this.
Right.
The people, Jew number one didn't say, to Jew number two, be my shliach to pick up this side. And Jew number two says to Jew number, and you be my shliach to pick up that side. They didn't say that to one another. But the halacha is saying that when we know that each Jew picked it up in order to make a kinyan in the article, so we're just going to put down as a given that since they wanted to acquire it, then obviously they wanted to have in mind whatever it takes in order for them to both acquire it.
Right.
And even if they don't know the halacha, we attribute that das to them in order that they'll be able to acquire it.
Right.
Okay.
What exactly is the das?
The das is that since Jew number one definitely wants to acquire, and the halacha is that he's not going to be able to acquire if he's just working alone, picking up his side of the talis, because the rule of Hagbah is that you got to pick up the whole talis in order to make an acquisition.
Right.
And so therefore the Torah says, based upon this principle of zechia and zachat nadam shelo b'fanav, zechia, that we impute to Jew number one this intention that he's going to have in mind everything that he needs to have in mind in order to make a kinyan in this talis.
Right. So I'm asking you, what exactly is it that we're saying he has in mind?
Oh, so I'm not really sure if it's I'm not really sure if it could be that there's more than one way of explaining this, but maybe Rashi's explaining it one way, and Rashba's explaining it a different way. But the way I'm understanding it right now is that take Jew number one. Jew number one picks up his side of the talis. So as he's picking up his side of the talis, we impute to Jew number one the kavana that he wants, that Jew number two that he's picking up his side of the talis. Yeah, this is where I might be mixing up Rashi and the Rashba. And I'm coming out with a hodgepodge. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But I would say like this. We have 1 minute. I would say like this in 1 minute, standing on 1 foot. When Jew number one picks up his side of the talis, he is picking it up for himself to make an acquisition, and also to allow Jew number 2 to make an acquisition in the talus. That's a given, I think, according to Rashi and the Rashba. The question is the mechanics. You're asking about the mechanics. What exactly how is it working? So you mentioned that the Art Scroll says something about shlichus, that Jew number 1 is we're attributing to Jew number 1 that he is appointing Jew number 2 to be a shliach, that when Jew number 2 picks up the other half of the talus, that he's picking it up also for Jew number 1, so that it will be, so that at the end of the day it will be regarded as though Jew number 1 picked up not only the side of the talus that he actually physically picked up, but also the side of the talus that he did not pick up at all, and the other Jew picked it up.
Right.
So that shlichus, that would be one way of taking care of it, and then we'd have to say the very same thing about Jew number 2. Right. But it could be that there's another way of explaining it other than that way, so that at the end of the day, both of them will be regarded as though they picked up both sides of the talus. But that, I think, is what all whether it's Rashi, whether it's the Rashba, whether it's anybody else, they all got to agree on that at the end of the day, because of the halacha of Hadba, each Jew has to be regarded as though he picked up the whole talus, because otherwise he hasn't made an acquisition at all, because that's the rule of Hadba, that in order to make a kinyan Hadba, you gotta pick up the entire article off the ground, and we see over here that Jew number 1 is only picking up his side of the talus, and Jew number 2 is only picking up his side of the talus. So unless we're gonna say all this gymnastics over here, it's going to come out that neither Jew is going to make a kinyan at all, because he didn't pick up the whole talus. And then Rashi says somebody else can come and grab it away from both of them, because neither one of them acquired anything. I thought the other way of saying it is not that Jew number 1 is appointing Jew number 2 as a shliach, but he himself, when he picks up his side, he's saying, I'm picking, and I think this is what Rami Bahama says. When Jew number 1 picks up his side, he's saying, I'm picking up this side for myself to acquire, and I'm also picking up this side for Jew number 2, so that it would be regarded as though Jew number 2 also picked it up.
Right.
And then Jew number 2 has to say this, has to have the same thought as Jew number 1 about his side. So then it'll be so then each one is picking it up for the other one. And then Rabbi Bar Chama comes and says, oh, if that's so, then we see that if a singular Jew comes and picks up a talus, and he says, I want Jew number 2 to acquire it, even though he's not here, that'll also work. And Jew number 2 will acquire it. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All the best, everybody. Shabbat shalom to Phil.
Shabbat shalom. Take care.
Have a great day. See you tomorrow, Musa Hashem.
Bezrat Hashem.